In the theme of stepping outside of my comfort zone in 2025, I'll be joined by my guest today, Anthony Cruz, as we discuss podcasting and recovery on this episode of the Scho-Zone. All right, everybody, welcome to the Scho-Zone. I am your host, Ryan Schofield, coming at you from the DeGen. We're not doing a live stream right now. We're doing this as an interview, so I'll be posting this later, but I'm recording right now on Wednesday afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Like, subscribe, comment, all that, share, all that douchebag stuff that podcast hosts like myself say. Again, you can also follow me on Scho525 on Instagram, Facebook page, The Scho-Zone, TikTok, The Scho-Zone. While it's still available, not really sure how much longer that's going. And if you're listening on the audio formats, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're on the YouTube channel, you can always see that I have available on most major podcast platforms. So without further ado, as I can kind of say, eventually I'm going to have guests where I'm not going to be able to use this intro. But when we talk to, more laid back, casual people, I can always say we don't spit on it. We don't lube it up. We just go right into it. So I'm joined by my guest, Anthony Cruz. Anthony, welcome to the Scho-Zone.
What's up? What's up?
Not too much, man. Not just, just kind of relaxing on a Wednesday afternoon. I've as my thoughts towards today were is that I've had better days, but I've certainly had much worse. I'm sure that that's something we can both agree on, and that'll be a theme of this conversation.
Yeah, a whole lot of ups and downs in recovery and addiction and all that,
Well, that's where we can kind of, go right to there. I mean, that's, one of the things that we had discussed. So how I came across and introduced to Anthony is that, doing the podcasting thing, there's a lot of groups that we kind of network through. I mean, all of us are our own little individuals, our own little like micro companies that we're kind of trying to work together and, kind of almost, bringing out some of the better parts of society, I'd say, where, little guys working together to try to become big guys kind of thing, or, a lot of building each other up. Anthony here had, expressed interest in getting into a podcast, and, the topic that he wanted to discuss a little bit or mentioning some of the thing is, Anthony is, I've mentioned on this show myself, I'm coming up on like 2.5 years sober from alcohol. Anthony has battled his own demons, has got a couple years of sobriety. So congratulations to that. And I generally find that the best conversations, or some of my best conversations I have, are with people who are in some form of recovery, because it's the only time I can find that somebody is honest. So I look forward to chatting with Anthony right now. So again, you had mentioned recovery and whatnot. So I guess let's just go right to it. As I remember when I was in my very first stint in a detox, where the one guy asked me, "What are you in for?" So I guess I would say, what was your drug of choice?
So I guess I really started using like Vicodins and Norcos and stuff like that. And it was just because I had a surgery on my back done, when I was like 15. I was I think it was about 15. Yeah, I was diagnosed with cancer in my spine. And so that's kind of where I started, but my actual like drug of choice, which was like my favorite, was using heroin and stuff. And I was a heavy like IV user. So
well, and that's something that I can relate with that story to you, as far as I never went down the route of the heroin thing, but I can certainly know when you said Vicodin, that kind of registered with me. Is me and I discussed a little bit last night, getting a little acquainted with each other. I was hit by a car, and also I would say, kudos on surviving cancer. I mean, that's, you're clearly surviving a lot of shit. You're a tough-minded guy. You've survived cancer and you're in recovery. So, you've clearly got a strong spirit, I would say, if you're still pushing on and keeping forward and pursuing some ambitions and everything. I got hit by a car when I was 22 years old, and I do remember getting prescribed Vicodin. And it's this very slippery slope with those painkillers, because they feel good and you build a tolerance up to them very quickly. And it gets, and then that can take you down a very, very scary road. I remember definitely falling into the loop of them a little bit, but thankfully, by the grace of God, not that I'm necessarily a religious type, just never proceeded going forward on there. But that's the scary thing, is that, when I was growing up, did you have the DARE program in school?
I believe that there was the DARE program. I'm not 100%. I might have just like missed it.
Okay.
But I know of it, like being in California and whatnot.
Gotcha, gotcha. I mean, I never knew. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing too. I meant to say you grew up in California, as you said, like the
Yeah.
central part of the states. I grew up in upstate New York, the capital city area of
Yeah.
the capital region, a little city outside of Albany, New York called Troy. Uh, so yeah, that was definitely something. And like they always kind of had this like the story that you would always get for people that fell into harder drugs was always that marijuana was the gateway drug. That was always the thing
Yeah.
that don't take a hit of pot because you'll be doing harder stuff in no time was kind of the narrative they kind of went with on us. And I started finding that most times that the stories of people who found themselves into the grips of opiates was mostly from medical stuff, not people that necessarily want to do it, people that had to endure a surgery or some type of serious pain where it starts with not the drug dealer but the doctor that becomes your first dealer in that sense.
Yeah, I find like half the time that's the case, like half the people it's because of something like that, you know?
Or then, I mean, even the proximity of that. I mean, what's almost more dangerous is that the people who don't end up doing that, the people who don't fall into that grips, they're the ones that end up selling these things.
Yeah.
The pills do come from somewhere. They get themselves into regular people's hands somehow. There is people, that kind of do that. Uh, but I mean, the one I think I kind of was saying, and then too, we kind of went through our age differences. I don't know if you mind me sharing your age or anything like that. But I can just say you're a couple of years younger than me,
Yeah, you can
and I've
share.
kind
That's
of
fine.
the opiate crisis. I didn't feel like hit my generation quite as much. Or I mean, if I don't know what I don't know. I mean, there are some people I know eventually, but when I would hear from people that are younger now, it seemed like it started infiltrating a younger age pool from it. And I mean, one of the
Yeah.
scary things I always looked at is that the opiate thing is kind of, you can keep it silent for a while. But I feel like that one of the big differences is that where things started getting off the rails was when Oxycontin came along. Because it went from
Yeah.
being Vicodins to Oxys. And Oxys, we all know the horror story with that. Were you ever a part of that at all? Or
Yeah, of course. That's like the middle ground to, before anybody really starts using like heroin and stuff. It's oxys, like you get the foil and all that. Like I don't know if you know about like the ways of using that, but that's how I started. Like I didn't even start like taking like a pill. Like someone just showed me just smoke it off a foil and then it's just a bigger rush, and that's so that was a big part of me jumping into heroin was because of that. Like somebody that would get that, and that became a more expensive habit, So then heroin like got introduced to me and was like, this is way more cheaper than that. Like, here you go, bro. Like,
jeez. I mean, and that's always the whole thing is that the ease of being able to find it. I mean, I kind of just think of, again, I never really evolved, but with the whole thing of that people in any form of recovery, it's not like we're in some kind of cock showing contest where it's like, oh, I was on harder
yeah,
stuff. I was, your traditional kind of started, your regular high school kid smoking pot and drinking beer on the weekends kind of thing. And
yeah,
for me, that's where I actually just kind of kept down that route. I mean, obviously once you get hard enough far along in the alcohol game, I mean, obviously cocaine enters your life, but I guess the one thing that my saving grace was is that I was kind of a functional drunk, and I guess I just never really had I never had the money to get a real heavy heart addiction, or I guess I just again by some grace just was not willing to go. I mean, so I mean, you obviously, how expensive would you say your I mean, got would at its peak?
at its peak. You talking about in just in general, or just the oxys, or heroin, or like just anything at
Anything just
all?
kind of going through that. So I mean, as you went from the Vicodins and all, I mean, so obviously with cancer, you're 15 years old, cancer and stuff like that, you're kind of set. Then like, when did you go from? First off, I guess I'd say which again, congratulations. When did you officially become cancer free?
So I believe. Let me talk about that story a little bit real quick. I think
Yeah,
that's pretty
sure.
important that you bring it up. So when I was like 15, I want to say like this was like kind of like in the beginning of like me going to high school and whatnot around there. I think I might have been like sophomore into freshman, something like that around that age. And it was like the summertime. So basically what happened was it was the summertime and I know you're a big sports guy and stuff. Like you
Yeah,
probably watch a lot of football too and whatnot. So like I played sports my whole life, like basketball was like a big thing I played, and like so football was a big thing at my school. at I went to Wainimi High School, and like I did the whole summer training and whatnot, and basically what happened was that like we were like in the last like I forgot how many weeks is Hell Week, but we were like in the last like couple weeks, and I was on my last week of like Hell Week, and I was stoked, I'm like, let's go, like I'm gonna be playing football, like like it was a big thing because sports was a big part of my life. So like I'm in the weight room and stuff one day, and this is just randomly, it just happens. And they're doing squats and stuff. Like first I hit the bench press, and then they're like, "Hey, come hit these squats." I'm like, "All right, all right." Like the weighted squats with the whole old school setup and all that and whatnot. So as I'm doing it, I go down once, two, three, and at the third time, I swear it was like the third time I started getting like this really, really weird pain, like in the back, because this is my lower spine where it was at. I started getting some really, really weird pain, like, and I was just like, I couldn't go no more after that, like, and like it broke like my spirits and everything. Like it really, really tore me up. Like I didn't know what was going on. Like I just couldn't continue doing Hell Week. So like after that, like this is a really, really important part of my life because this changed a lot of different things in my life. So like after that part, basically what happened was I ended up going to the doctor. It's a family doctor that all of us would go to. And like I kept going back, and like she straight up told like I think it was me and my mom were there. I'm pretty sure she said this like 95%. Like that whole part of my life was kind of blur. Like I try to forget about it. So I'm in there, and like she tells us that, oh well, he's young, he's just trying to get painkillers and this is and that. That's why he's saying he's in pain and like and whatever. And like I kept telling her over and over and over again until one day they finally do x-rays, nothing. They put me in physical therapy. I go to physical therapy, right? And the physical therapist tells my mom that everything that she's doing is making my pain worse. I guess like the pressure or something from like the same thing like from the squats with the pressure, whatever
Mhm.
pressure she was applying to my lower back was making me worse. So then they finally go and they she goes and pulls aside, like I said, to my mom, and says like you got to get MRIs done or something. Like I'm gonna tell the doctor to order it. So this is like, like this is like a year in or something at this point. So I go and get an MRI done, and then like I remember this point in my life so well. Like I'm there with my mom and my stepdad and I think my brother, and like you just hear like in the hallway, you just hear like the doctors like, oh my god, this kid has a tumor on his lower spine. And like I could hear them say that. And then they come in and explain whatnot, what it is, and that it could be cancerous. And I end up like going to surgery for that and whatnot in the LA Children's Hospital. At this point, I was like 17 and a half or 17. So this was like 2 years that I was dealing with it just because, like a doctor really just was just kind of blowing me off that it was growing pains and this and that. And that's kind of what kicked off this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on for I don't have the highest faith in the medical community, and that
Yeah.
story just doesn't really make me feel much better about that. As far as that, it just looked like you were, you know, so during that 2 years, were you being prescribed painkillers, or I mean, what was exactly happening through that? Were you seeking different doctors to them, or I mean, there obviously you were dealing with the pain and discomfort at that point in time. This wasn't you necessarily being an addict or anything at that point. It was kind of you just having to do what you had to do to survive through. Because I can't imagine lower spine pain. I mean, I know that I have a tight back every now and again, and it derails your day. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I might have been prescribed like once I got that MRI done. I don't think it was like before that because like I said, the doctor was saying that it was growing pains and this and that. She may have gave me like Trimadol or something like that, if you know what that
yeah,
is. And at that time they were saying it wasn't like really narcotic and stuff. And now they do say that, but I feel like I
like
was given
600
like
milligram
ibuprofen.
ibuprofens or something instead.
Yeah, like ibuprofen and Trimadol or something for like breakthrough pain or whatever. But But yeah, I think that's what I was prescribed. But I think, like I said, after I got the actual MRI and the doctor really seen like this kid is really in pain, you know what I mean? That's when they're like, okay, here you go, like, like, and I actually needed it, like I actually was in pain,
Oh yeah, no. That's
Yeah.
where it starts. Is that nobody would
Hmm.
just. I mean, well, there are people who will try something because they see somebody that looks like they're feeling good or whatever. But most people's first time trying a painkiller is probably when it's prescribed to them. I mean, I actually even really can think to my first experience, which maybe also probably scared me about some things, is that I've never been someone that liked needles, so that always probably helped go down. But I actually had an incident that happened in my childhood when I was in sixth grade. I ended up having to have emergency appendectomy surgery. And that was kind of a whole thing where I went through this most awful afternoon of my life as far as basically it wasn't until they was at the point of critical time line that they discovered that I had an inflamed appendix. They were doing a lot of testing thinking it was other things. I had had a scare once before where I thought I had appendicitis, but it turned out to just be really bad gas, I guess, which is kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
But then I did have this. Ended up having inflamed there, but I remember being post surgery and being in the hospital and having them give me morphine for the first time, and I remember feeling
Yeah.
the dance of the morphine going through my veins and just like literally kind of having this now knowing where I understand where people come through in that one, but I also saw the dangers of that, or about whoa, that could be that could be a little bit too much enticing kind of thing. So I do understand that one. But so going through treatment, I mean, I guess like I mean, how long or what was the road to recovery like on cancer? I guess for starters.
Um, real quick, it's funny that you're talking about the whole morphine experience, like you first getting that and stuff. When I got like morphine at the children's hospital, like I said, I was like 17 and a half or something like that. I remember like briefly, like I'm going on like an elevator and like I was so like gone that like I guess like they were bringing me down somewhere to do MRIs, and my mom said that I was dancing on the elevator and there was like a boat with like it was like Noah's Ark or something like that, and I thought I was on a boat with animals or something like that.
Those things. I mean, you get into such weird dreamland. I mean, it's almost like you ever
Yeah,
hear the ambient stories. When people get that far gone, that they start engaging in some really weird behaviors because their mind is definitely in the clouds.
yeah, I've been there too. I've taken that before too because I couldn't sleep, and that's a whole nother thing. But so what was the question again? Was it
I was
about
just
like my
asking about your
recovery from
cancer recovery
cancer?
because I mean I'm trying to
Okay,
get so
yeah,
we start off with that we have the former just regular kid just going to high school playing sports and stuff like that just like myself
yeah.
and whatnot. Like now at that point in your life, were you a party? Did you get engaged in underage drinking or smoking pot or anything at that age, like 15 when all this started, or were you a
Um,
pretty straight laced kid?
I think I think like I smoked a little bit of weed like here and there, and like it actually helped me because like I just, I was feeling like shit a lot, like, and I think that I may have did like crystal like a little bit, maybe like twice, and this was with like someone down the street for me that was just like, here, like, you want to try it? And I was like, yeah. And I didn't do it after that. Like I never experienced crystal like until later in my life, but like uppers and all that was never really my drug of choice.
Yeah, I never really went to the upper route. I'm already high. I mean, I see you drinking a Red Bull right there. I mean, I drink
Besides
I
that,
drink I drink a half a pot of coffee every morning, but I'm just naturally. I mean, I don't even think I really need that. If you just gave me decaf,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure you could placebo me into being high energy. So I'm
yeah,
usually on the side of things of that. I like to try to scale things down a little bit, and that's kind of what I would get. Mostly out of like drinking and smoking pot were my big to dos and whatnot, and those were kind of to tame me down a little bit. I always like to be down more. And meth is actually one of those things I feel like that, and obviously it just seems like that was more of a West Coast thing. I'm here on the East Coast. And I'm not exactly prude to the scene of things like that. I don't think I've ever been in the room and known that meth was in the room, or like, actually seen it or even had it offered to me. I guess I didn't party hard enough.
yeah. It's in the South too. Like I'm in Nashville right now, and I know it's like pretty bad out here in the South. I don't know about New York, so I've never been out there. I'm
Yeah.
sure like Coke or something's probably like more New
That
York.
seemed to be what I would come across more times. And then, I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what relative to scale or like that, but I spent a long time living in Rochester, and that area seemed like it was a really big hit with the opiate crisis. And I remember a big thing that, I've gone over this on my show before, but I just remember back a while back, like Rochester's been kind of on a downward trend as a city, but they posted in their newspaper back when the newspapers actually still had some relevance, I would say. And they were kind of citing the problem for heroin in Rochester that was developing. And I remember thinking it was incredibly dangerous the way that the journalism was covered, because while it was kind of a what's going on piece, what I looked at is for a younger person, it was a how-to manual. Like they told
Yeah.
you where to go to get it, how to go about getting it, like where you could acquire clean needles and stuff, like, and uh, obviously, one thing that happened with that is that it kind of brought attention to areas that were drug areas. So what happens there? People have to move off those spots. And then what happens there? The gang fall out, and that city's been a war zone of shooting for a while. That was just a theory of mine. And I, could be right. The evidence supports that I was right on that. Not that I take any joy out of it, but that was kind of what I would say more. I never really knew of meth being a thing, but, I'm sure that it seems like that was kind of, my exposure to meth is based off the show Breaking Bad. That's I don't really have
Yeah.
much
That's the
else to
closest
it.
you got to it.
Yeah, it's just it's one of those good things, I guess I would say. I mean, I'm sure I hung around where there were some biker gangs and stuff like that. I'm sure if I really felt like getting deep into that circle, I could have found some, but I was mostly trying to steer clear of that.
Yeah, when that show came out, like I remember like people started like trying to like I think dye like the meth like that color and be like, hey, I got that Breaking Bad meth. Like
Oh yeah, dude, it's amazing that, like, I mean, it's one of those things of that, like, it's funny with certain movies of that, like, of drug culture, is that some
yeah,
people like almost like seem to like be intrigued by it, and I'm like, I feel like that
yeah.
that was a good way to would want to avoid this. Like, if you've ever seen Train Spotting, it doesn't seem like that would,
Oh
made,
yeah, that's a
it
good
doesn't
movie.
never
Yeah.
really sold me on the heroin experience too much. Cocaine, I've seen some movies where people are having fun at bachelor parties and all that good stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
everything's all fun till the hooker dies, but like. That can happen with anything. Everything is fun until the hooker's dead.
Yeah.
You could have
Yeah, there's
you
always a
could be
girl that
sober and that
dies.
could be a bad time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, so we got an idea there. So you go through now while you're going through cancer treatments, would you say that you are on your way to being into addiction, or are you kind of mostly just dealing with? I mean, were you going through chemo or radiation, or what was all that like?
Luckily, I did not need chemo or radiation. They got everything out of my spine and all that. They had I believe it was like behind a bone or something. So they had to remove a bone like on my lower back that I could live without. Supposedly that I could live without. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but they said that I could live without it. So they were able to get every part of it out. And I had to get like MRIs done for like a year, then 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And like I think I gotta get one done like again soon. Like it's like the rest of my life. They said it's like a very, very small percent that it could come back, which is kind of scary, but like,
I
I'm
mean,
fine right now.
I guess, I mean, you're just I mean, given I mean, I don't know how you approach the recovery thing, but I guess, every day is just its own new challenge. So, when the
Yeah.
time comes or like that. So you get through that. Like, I guess I would say so that when did you become cancer free? At what age? Because we got to you at about 17 and a half, you get diagnosed. When do you become cancer free? I guess I would say,
Um,
right. I mean, immediately from the surgery and you're,
yeah, I think it was like right after that, like because they removed it all, and it was just what they wanted to, like I said, follow up with MRIs and stuff and see what, if it would come back, and nothing came back. Like when I had got out of the hospital and all that, like they had told me that like if I could like use the restroom or something like that, that I could go home after the surgery because like my whole like insides were like pretty tore up. So like I made it like a thing that I like was gonna go home. Like I wanted to get out of there. Like, dude, there was a kid next, like remember this is a children's hospital. There's some serious stuff there, you
oh,
know. There was
absolutely.
like the big reason why I wanted to get out was because right next to me there was a kid like maybe like 8 years old. He had a brain tumor, dude, and he was crying all day and night. And like it made me cry, dude, like at night. Like I was going through my own thing and praying, and like I never prayed ever or anything like that, like in my life, really. But I prayed so much, like for myself and for that kid, like, and like I just wanted to get out of there, dude, like, cause that just more than myself, like I'm a big person, like for my own self, like I don't care what's going on with me, but if it's someone that I care for or anything, or even just something like that, like a little kid that can't do anything, like it affects me bad, bro. So I wanted to get out of there, you know?
Right, right. It's like no one likes to be
Yeah.
in the room as a crying same room as a crying dog type thing, if you feel that
Yeah.
sense of compassion and stuff. And that just kind of, adds, compounds an already stressful and traumatic situation, just kind of makes it even worse, which is, hard to imagine.
Yeah.
So and now we get to, I guess, where do we fall into? Was it a gradual slide into the life, or what was exactly what goes on from there now that you're uh, free of cancer? But obviously, I'd imagine that's when the real heavy prescription started, when you did get your insides ripped out, basically.
Yeah, I think because I still was going through like pretty bad pain. So I think it was like right away it went from like before I was getting like 30 Vicodins or something, then it jumped to like 60. And then like it wasn't really still working too much. So then it jumped to 90 and like at like 10 milligrams. I think it was like Norcos, which is like a lower like was Talinar ibuprofen or something like that. So I think that's kind of yeah, where I went with
So,
that.
and then I mean, obviously, as I can attest to, is that the tolerance build up and the dependence starts developing on there. So
Right
it
away,
was
right away, because I was just and like I said with that too, I think, like, after it kinda slowly, like, kinda stopped working, kind of, like, is when I, started taking more, and with Norcos, like I said, because it has a lower ibuprofen or Tylenol, whatever's in it, you can take more of that and be okay, like, compared to Vicodin, it has, like, a higher ibuprofen, But that's kind of like once I think I hit that 90 mark is when I started, kind of abusing it at that point. I might have been like 18 and a half. Like it was pretty quick. It was
yeah.
more like I guess I was abusing it, but at the same time I was in pain too. You know what I mean?
Right, right. It's kind of like I mean, but it's almost like which at what point do you think you're if you were to weigh it out, were you treating pain or are you treating dope sickness? It's or were you like it's kind of the one thing I can speak of my own thing from my levels of addiction is that you'll find reasons to think it's okay to do what you're doing, like,
Yeah.
stub my toe, gotta have a drink. It's kind of like almost the logic that kind of goes along with it, or oh, this happened. Well, that's the reason, just kind of you start finding reasons to do things. I mean, but obviously pain is a real thing, but it's,
Yeah.
ultimately becomes of, the idea that there's I always laugh of I mean I hate that I use the lines like always laugh for things are funny because they're not necessarily funny, but there's a lot of people even still with marijuana. Like I always let people say it helps with their anxiety, but most people I know that are potheads have some of the highest levels of anxiety I'm aware of. And I'm like, are you sure you just don't
Yeah.
like being high? Is that kind of a thing? Like kind of
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's kind of where like it started. And like at that point, like I had met some girl and supposedly she got pregnant and then I came out here to Tennessee at the time to stay at my grandparents. And then shortly after that I had my own place. And at that point I started getting like I think at that point is when I started buying like in the streets, is when I moved to Tennessee. Like, once I started, like, buying, like, and I would get prescriptions, like, by myself. Once I started buying it and stuff, I think I kinda knew in the back of my mind that something wasn't right with me and that, even though I was in pain and stuff, but I was, abusing, like, the Vicodins and whatnot, you know what I mean?
and then you said then we progressed into the next level, which was the oxys, and we all know the horrors of that whole epidemic because then the oxys eventually where they either got to be too hard to obtain or when they got pulled, it just seemed like it just kind of set up this whole natural demand for. I mean, that shit gets expensive. Like you were talking about the other day, it basically was $1 a milligram was the charge of that one. And Oxy started getting into 40 and 80 milligrams on there. So do the math on
Yeah.
that one. If that, as far as that's why I was asking, like at the peak of things, like, before we went to heroin, what was the cost per day of a pill habit?
Um, honestly, it was like it could be anywhere from like, damn, dude, like that's kind of a there was no cap on it, honestly. If I could get like, like 50 pills and like I can do them, dude, I'm gonna do them. Like, you know what I mean? Like it would just if I
So
had the money, dude, I'm buying it no matter what, for
so
every
at this
drug that I started abusing them.
point of your life, are you like say how are you financing this? Are you working still, or are you kind of, ripping and running, so to speak? A
I think
little
at
bit of
that
both.
point it might have been like a little bit of both, and then just any way possible getting, and I also started when I started using like oxys and stuff, I had moved back to California at the time, and that's when I first started using them. I met like some guy that I was like I think getting Vicodins from before or something like that. I don't remember. But I was staying with him and his girlfriend in these apartments, Pepper Tree Apartments in Ventura. Like if anybody that sees this that knows of those apartments know that they're pretty bad, like for stuff like that. Like and that's kind of where everything kind of shifted in like a big way was in Ventura, California. Was like I went from, the Roxys and all that, and Oxys and smoking them on the foil and all that. And then, I want to say like maybe within like 6 months, it jumped it straight into the heroin, dude. Like it was all in those apartments where I really, and that and some hotels in Ventura that I started using heroin. And like I started smoking heroin, with the same guy who introduced me to the Roxys and all that introduced me to the heroin. It was like, hey, this is a lot cheaper. Like here you go. You want to try it? I'm like, yeah, like everybody's doing it now. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of where that, you know,
So just as a random kind of question, I guess I would have, would you say that things were a little more, I guess I would say, would you, was the drug activity worse in Tennessee or was it worse in California? As far as just not your personal experience, but just the experience around you. Like, would you say the ease or the
California.
availability of California was worse?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure like I've heard like Memphis is pretty bad, like but I've never been like there or whatever, but the thing is California is more like close. All of us are closer to each other compared to Tennessee, so we have easier access to like things are a lot quicker. Like I can get stuff a lot quicker. Like in Tennessee, like you might have to drive like a little like, 30, 45 minutes. Like, like I just have to walk like around the corner, you know what I mean? And like that's it.
Yeah. I mean, also, it seems like, just my outsider's experience. I mean, I
Yeah.
just visited California for the first time this summer, and San Francisco. And like, they're one of the things there is that they're like paying people to move back out of San Francisco because people just
Yeah.
go there to be homeless drug addicts, kind of thing. you know?
Yeah. Hey, can you give me 1 second real quick? I use the
Yeah,
restroom real quick.
absolutely.
Okay, I'll be quick.
Yeah, no worries. We're just giving Anthony a brief second here. I'm going to actually hit pause on this. All right, we're all back here. Just had to take a quick little break there, but Anthony, we're all back on board. So, what were you about to say, Anthony? Got to pound that Red Bull. Got to get into the game.
Yeah. Yeah. So where are we at right now? We're talking
So
about like kind of
you were
my
talking about
jump
how
to
California seemed like things were easier to access because you were able to, things were closer proximity, everyone's a lot closer. And then
yeah.
also it just sounds like that you had that like particular venue, for debauchery, for lack of a better term. It seems like the
Yeah.
little sin bin of a hotel there. And then you get far along there. So at that point, you're basically almost become, I mean, I'm not to say disparagingly, but as I've kind of looked at it, is that I've never known a casual heroin user in my entire life. It seems like
Mhm.
like I know of people that'll, take a drink every now and again. I know of people that may, take a bump of Coke every, once in a blue moon here and there. I don't know of any just casual heroin users. It seems like that's a pretty quick into a daily, if not life living habits, as far as I know of.
Yeah, I think that like once I went from I mean, I think the Roxy's kind of messed me up a little bit too. Like, and it was you can't be like a casual like smoking off the foil. Like, I'm sure there's people out there, but I don't think that there's anybody like that. That's just a casual user.
Yeah, I'd
Like, it
say once you're
happens.
doing something off the unconventional method, like once you're not popping the pill, then once you're doing it in
Yeah,
different ways, I think you've already committed yourself to it. Yeah.
yeah, because you're trying to find a different way to get the rush and a better way than just taking it like normal. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, dude, like even when I just see foil, like, and I'm making food, it triggers me, dude, and that sucks. You know what I mean? Or I'm going to doctor to get like blood drawn. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I can deal with it. But it definitely does trigger me. You know what I mean?
And that's got to be one of the scarier things of that. I kind of, deal with this on a much, much lower scale, but those are all things you mentioned, making food, um,
Hmm.
going to the doctor, getting blood drawn. And they do
Daily
tell you
stuff.
when you do have a habit, you want to avoid anything that reminds you of it, kind of thing, because of
Yeah,
the things
yeah,
triggers. So as somebody for my sake with alcohol, like I remember I was in AA at one point and somebody told me I'm a huge baseball fan. They're like, yeah, you can't watch baseball. And I'm kind of like, look, I'm like, we got to
yeah.
reevaluate life if I can't do this, if that's so bad. But it's like, what am I supposed to do? Not watch TV? It's impossible to watch a commercial without a beer commercial or TV without an alcohol advertisements, like
Especially
so.
sports.
Right. I mean, like, and that's where the one where, you kind of mentioned where this is where it's kind of like almost we're on parallels. I mean, there's different levels of intensity. I would say that, you know, alcohol is a slower death, or that's more so because it's socially acceptable. It slips under the gun a little bit more. Like if
Yeah,
you don't see somebody at a party and go he's just had a little too much heroin. I'm sure this is that's kind of always
yeah,
maybe a red flag. But if you see someone that's had a little too much to drink, depending on the occasion, you may look at it as a one off. But then when you start noticing a lot, but ultimately there are, I mean, every place that you go to is again, it's available there. Whereas with one of the dangers with heroin and opiates is that there's a counterculture that where it exists everywhere kind of thing.
yeah, yeah.
But it's a little bit more under the radar. Again, the alcohol thing being a little bit more on the socially acceptable side. But I mean, yeah, I get those on there. And I mean, it's, the best thing I could say is that ultimately you just kind of cut things out. I mean, one thing I actually as I'm realizing things I want to talk about with you. So we went through the cancer surviving, into things. You did have one epic story that you teased. I did want to hear now. At some point in time, you did mention that you got acid thinking it was heroin and you actually injected acid into your veins. You did mention that we were going to discuss that story. I need to hear all
Yeah.
about this one.
Okay, okay. Um, it's kind of for me to kind of explain it, like I kind of gotta explain it like all. I feel like I may bring,
Absolutely.
yeah, I may put off like a tiny, tiny bit of stuff and just change it up a little bit. Just like you'll kind of see why, like.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sure you're familiar with the movie Half Baked, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you know that white guy in the movie. I forgot what his name is, the actor.
Jim
But
Brewer.
he's the one is that I don't know his name honestly, but he's the one that's like, "Yeah, man." He's just like really, really
Yeah. Jim
dingy and
Brewer's the
like,
main actor.
yeah. So, um, I was staying at a buddy's house in the east side of Oxnard. We'll just say that. And like people that were going around to that house and stuff. It was a couple. And they had like these little gummies, okay, like of acid. And I guess that's like a common way to take it. Like I didn't know at the time. I never really indulged in acid. I never was really into the whole like tripping thing and all that. Like I was just trying to get high and just locked and loaded. Like that's. I wasn't trying to go in the deep end to another dimension with the aliens and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I was just trying to just stay where I was at and whatnot. So like with them, I get introduced to another buddy, of theirs. It was just this one guy, and he was like that guy from Half Baked. You know what I mean? So so from that point, I'm trying to remember real quick. Okay. So I ended up hanging out with him for a little bit, like, cause he was pretty bad into heroin and all that and whatnot. So like I ended up hanging out with him and he was staying right there in his van or something or whatever, right? So I'm with him and he would always have like heroin and he would always have like acid on him, like vials of acid, like I don't know why, but he would have a bunch of them, and he would just do it. And mind you, this guy is just like that guy from Half Baked. Like you just keep remembering this story, So, um, his tire was messed up or something, and somebody had said that he had to get out because he was making like the block hot or whatever, like because he was just staying in his van. So we ended up going to his dad ended up getting his I think it was a minivan towed to because he had a flat tire too, and he couldn't move even if he wanted to. So he got his minivan towed to a tire place, a mechanic shop in downtown Oxnard, where I'm from. And so what we were gonna do is like I was gonna stay with him, and then the next day we were gonna go and do some stuff to make more money. Just say that. And so we're in the van, like and we were gonna wait until the next day because they were closed to fix his tire and whatnot. We're in the van, and the lights are like really dim around us, the street lights and stuff. So it's kind of like moonlight-ish, like kind of the way that like a bright full moon looks. That's kind of the way it looked outside. So like we're in the minivan and stuff, and like at this point, like I'm pretty dope sick, like I'm just like, man, just anybody that has been dope sick, like or even alcohol knows that, any sick at all, like you feel like shit, you know what I mean? So I felt like shit, bro. Like I just felt tore up. So I'm in the back of the van. He's in the front of the van. So he was like, "Hey, well, I got a little bit of H, like I'll give you some, I'm like, all right, cool. And also like just to bring this up real quick, like when I had seen those gummies they had and stuff, I kind of like was planning on experimenting with acid like down the road just because they had it and they were going to give me some, so like I kind of was planning, to experiment with that. So okay, so I'm right there, I'm right there. Okay, so I'm dope sick in the back of the van. And what ends up happening is he's making up a shot or whatever, and mind you, he has acid, he has heroin, he has two different things. They might have been in the same vial or something. I don't know. So like so he goes and does whatever, and gets it in the syringe and stuff, hands it to me. Here you go. And sometimes when I would be like super, super dope sick and like I don't want to be sitting there for like people who have used needles and stuff and hit themselves will know that like sometimes like it can take like a long time to find your vein, especially if you're doing it a long time and stuff. So like I ended up just straight up, he ends up IVing it regularly. I muscle it right into my muscle. This might have saved my life at that point. It's very possible it did because when you're well, sorry. So
All
I'm
right,
forgetting a big story. I mean, I'm forgetting a big part of the story. So what happened was instead of the heroin he handed me acid by accident. That's what I forgot to mention. So in the syringe, he handed me acid, and I did not know that's what it was. I
did
thought it was
he? Did you do this
heroin.
by accident or did you do this on purpose?
No, remember what I said, like the dude is just like from the dude from Half Baked.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you remember
yeah,
how
yeah.
he is, he's very like, hey man, that's just how he was. You know what I mean? So he hands it to me, and like I said, when you're dope sick too, like you just want to get high and feel better. Well, mostly just feel better. You know what I mean?
Right.
So um I remember clearly, like I ended up boom doing it into my muscle, and then he does it into his vein, like around the same time. And then dude, like it hit him right away. And he was like, "Oh fuck, man!" Like he said those words. I was like, "What? Like, is this like a bad batch or something or whatever?" And he was like, "No, man. Like, I just gave you like acid by accident." So at that point, dude, like, I don't know if you remember that Cheech and Chong movie when the classroom when they're on Malibu on the PCH and they're in the little lowrider. You remember that movie?
Yeah, loosely. I
So,
always
but
got
there's a
stoned watching it, so I don't remember so well.
yeah. But there's a point in that movie where he was like, "Oh man, I never did acid in my life, and this and that." Like he starts freaking out because he gives him acid or something like that. that's exactly how I felt. Like I just
Yeah,
started
that's
like
not the thing you
just
want to hear. I mean, I imagine when you just shot something with people that, usually you don't want to hear, oh, fuck, when you just injected something. I'd imagine that's one of the worst things to hear. I'd imagine that
yeah,
that's a relief of that. It's not that it's a bad batch that might kill me, but then finding out, oh, I just did something that is, I've never done acid either, but I have, eaten mushrooms. You need to get
yeah,
yourself in a mental space before you do that. You don't exactly do it without your own knowledge necessarily. Or I can't imagine,
yeah,
being dosed, as people would say, where you just have a mystery surprise on that one. So now
yeah,
you said that he injected the acid, he injected acid into his veins. You did it into your muscle.
yeah.
Now you
So
said it saved your life. Now I'll let you finish. Actually, I'll just have my own
yeah,
questions
yeah.
maybe.
So the way that I said I think it saved my life is because when you do it in your muscle, it's kind of delayed, and because it takes like a little longer to get to your body. Like I think it's like maybe like 20 minutes to maybe like 30 minutes or something like that. Because when you do it into your vein, it's straight. It goes
Yeah.
straight into your bloodstream right away. Like instantaneous. So and I think that like when he did it into his vein or whatever, like that's when he realized it wasn't the heroin right away because it hit him right away.
And I'm sure you're
But
familiar with the feeling of when you put heroin in your veins versus not.
yeah, and dude, like at that point, like he ends up calling his dad. Like his dad knows that he messes with stuff like this, and all that. And like I guess at one point, like they were pretty rich or whatever. And I don't know, that's a whole nother story. But like calls his dad, and his dad's maybe like on the south side of Oxnard of my town, which is about 15 minutes, I want to say, or something from us. And mind you, we don't have a car, dude. Like, like if to go anywhere or anything, like he's more freaking out about me because he's used to taking acid all the time. And I think he's actually like IV'd it before too. So he was okay. Like
Okay.
he was straight. Like it might affect him a little bit, but he calls his dad, and he's like, I gave my buddy a bunch of acid and this is and that. He's like freaking out, thinking that like something bad's gonna happen to me, bro. Like, and like when he's freaking out, I start freaking out and stuff. And like I'm just like, oh my God. His dad comes over there and he starts telling his dad and stuff, I gotta get him Xanax, I gotta get him this and that, and like kind of just like scattered. Like, I gotta do this and that for him because he's gonna freak out. Like, I guess the Xanax to kind of bring me down a little bit, because I always started freaking out pretty bad. So they start taking us, or he starts taking us to the hospital, St. John's Hospital. It's about maybe like another like 10 minutes like from where we're at. His dad takes us to the hospital. And as soon as we get to the hospital and we open the doors, like we both were gonna get checked up on just to make sure that we were both okay. Mainly me, because like God knows how much he actually gave me and him hits. It could be, I think he said it was like 15 hits or something. I'm not 100%. That's what he thinks. But this is a guy who's like that guy from Half Baked. So it could have been like 3 or whatever. But
Right. Could have been 30.
yeah.
you know?
So like I walk up in the hospital. I swear, like as soon as I get through those doors, like, hospitals are bright and white and all that. There's a couple people sitting down in there. I walk up in the hospital and like lights go out, boom, like just immediately go out, dude. And I'm just in blackness. Like I've never experienced anything like that in my life. I'm in just total dark blackness. Like it was just really, really weird. It was like that. It seemed like forever. And then after that, I ended up like started tripping. And the only trip that I have like where I was somewhere, bro. Like I was somewhere else, like 100%.
I
Like,
imagine that much acid, it was an out of body experience. That's just,
yeah,
being
like,
honest with you. It sounds like.
yeah. I was What all I remember was I was in this desert and there was a big clock. That's all I remember, dude. Like, and I was stuck there for a while and not knowing what was going on, just sand blowing everywhere and stuff. And I was stuck there for a while, and then I kind of would like wake up to like bright lights again and then go back there and then bright lights. And then within a second after that, like I'm in front of like about to get checked in or whatever, and then my buddy comes out with his dad and there's like, let's go. I guess he got checked out already and I didn't get checked out. And I was like, what? Let's go. And he's like, yeah, we're going to go and this and that. And I'm like, I thought that I was going to get checked out. 'cause I was freaking out pretty bad. And like I said, I was just in the lobby, like waiting for them to come and get me, you know. So after
That
that, oh my god, like it didn't stop from there, dude. Like after that, his dad drops us off back to the car, and he was like, "No matter what you guys do, you stay in this car tonight," you know. And I'm like, okay. You know, mind you, I didn't get well. Like I still felt pretty shitty and sick, even though I was like, going through this. I still felt, you know,
just
I
about dope
still felt,
sick.
yeah, I still felt pretty dope sick, you know. So then, as soon as his dad leaves, what do? I go in, tell my buddy, like, you know what, like, I'm going over the bridge, and I know we don't have a car, and I'm gonna go score, dude, because, like, maybe it will help me come down a little bit, or So I walk over to the bridge where I usually would hang out and get stuff from, you know what I mean?
Yeah, cop.
And I called my buddy and told him, I'm like, "Hey, dude, like this and that happened, and I'm freaking out, and I need to get some." I go over there to his house, and everybody's always hanging out there and stuff, like and getting high or whatever and whatnot, and shooting the shit, and all night, like they'll be up there all night. So I go over there, and once I get there, bro, like they're all just messing with me, dude. Like just saying crazy things, like just like because they knew I was tripping, dude.
Yeah,
So
that's
they
always the
start,
dangerous thing to be the one guy tripping around people that you can be really evil to somebody when they're on mind altering drugs like that.
yeah, they started messing with me, dude, and it tripped me out like crazy. I don't remember what they said, but I just know that they were doing that. So I get there, and my buddy's like, "Oh, well, I just sold the last bag or whatever." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, but we can go over here and to where I get it from, and and then you'll be good or whatever." So on the way over there, let's just say it may or may not happen, like stuff that shouldn't have been done, like to make money or whatever, like stuff was going on or whatever, and then as we're driving to over there too, like he starts like because he knows, like I said, that I'm tripping, he starts like going crazy with the car, like zoom, zoom, zoom. I'm like, dude, stop doing that. You're tripping me out. He's
Yeah,
just doing everything to mess with me, dude. And like, I was like, this sucks. So we're right there where he gets the stuff or whatever, and it's like, now it's like 4 or 5 in the morning, dude, and he didn't come out. I guess he like nodded out or something in his connect's house or whatever, and I'm just like, damn, dude, like, so me and the other guy that was, with me were like, um, he was like, I'm gonna have my girl pick us up and then we'll figure it out from here. So I still didn't get nothing, dude. So I end up getting some money sent to me. I forgot from where. So I go over there, bro. I go over there. It was like a Walmart money center or whatever. And there's a little person that works there, okay? There's a little person that works at that Walmart. And
okay, that's good.
as I'm getting the money, nobody is there, dude. I'm just like, what? But there was someone there. There was a little person behind the thing. She was like, give me the money. And I'd asked my buddy that was with me because I thought that some stuff wasn't real. Like, because I thought I was tripping out, but that was real. Like,
That would
because I
probably make me
remember that,
think I was tripping out if I,
yeah,
that
like
exact, yeah.
I was stuck. I was just like, this is real. This isn't real. But it really was real. It really happened. you know I get the money or whatever, we go and get the stuff, we go to his house, and rest in peace, like, to my friend, like he ended up dying like like a couple years later, I think, when I was locked up or whatever, but we ended up getting the stuff, and end up getting right, and then at the end of all this, dude, like my buddy, I guess, was blowing me up, the one from the day before who gave me all the stuff, and he felt like bad and wanted to make sure I was okay and whatnot. And um, so like we ended up meeting up with him again, and then they dropped me off, or my buddy dropped me off there in like another part of town, and I was gonna stay there with him, and because we were gonna do some stuff that next day, me and him, you know what I mean? So he drops me off, right? And And I also, like I said, I was homeless like during this time too. I had nowhere to go. So I was just going wherever, you know what I mean? So he drops me off, and then I ended up, like I said, getting ride or whatever. I give him some stuff because I know he didn't have anything either at wherever place he was hanging out at, you know. And we ended up hanging out in his van, and then he had some girl there that just got out of jail or something like that. I don't remember really. I just, was just started feeling good and stuff. I'm in the back of the van, just nodding out like this, and and going back and forth. And whatchamacallit, so all of us were kind of like that, you know what I mean? And it's like 5, 6 in the morning. And I had like this little blade which had like a rope at the end of it. I had it like on my leg, probably from cutting the dope or whatever that I had and to get high with or whatever, So like we're back there, sleeping, whatever. And I guess someone called the cops on us, dude. So the cops roll up on us and everybody get out. And this is not, do you have any weapons, drugs, or whatever? The whole, regular get down. And they get out, the girl gets out, my buddy gets out, and then I get out. And as I get out, the blade that I didn't remember that I had it on my leg still hits the ground. They start freaking out. "This is- I thought you had no weapons and this is and that. Get on the ground." And so at the end of this trip, I end up locked up for a dagger or something. They booked me in. Like a lot of cops will try anything, dude. Like if they think they can possibly get a charge from you, even if it's a little percent, they will book you in, especially in California. So I ended up at the end of this whole thing, this was like day 2, I ended up locked up, and the whole like kind of trip is kind of hitting me like in waves. And I just remember being like really, really depressed, and just like my back was hurting. Like, and I guess it's a common thing from using like psychedelics like that. Like you get like a bad depression and stuff like that.
Yeah, the come down on those because they in order to create the experience that you get on there, you basically draw a bunch of things out of your brain and you bleed certain glands kind of. Yeah, so there's definitely always
Yeah.
the after parts. I mean, I've never done the synthetic version with acid or stuff like that, but I know that, after like shrooms or, MDMA or anything like that, there's the really nice high and then there's the really horrible letdown. But I mean, then, things
Yeah.
balance out a little bit. It's not like getting dope sick, which is something. And again, I never was part of that world, but I've told this story with a previous guest on here. But I do know that community, in a weird way, they do look out for each other. It makes me realize how bad being dope sick must be. That people have the compassion to not watch. So it's like, not that people, I'm sure, are selfish for their own thing, but I just remember an experience where I had really hit and drinking a little too hard, and I was probably withdrawing from alcohol, where I was fairly not warm day, but not a cold day for sure. And I'm wearing a jacket and I'm out behind the gas station I worked at the time, and I'm like in dry heaves. And the guy walks up to me and he was like, "Hey man, I got some, and I didn't know that boy was code term for heroin at the time. The guy was like, "Yeah, I got what I can help you out," or like that. And I was kind of like realizing it myself. I was like, I'm not, that's not what I need. I need a Bud Light, really, kind of was where I was thinking. But I also, that moment always registers in my head is that I should have, kind of how far addicted to alcohol I was, where, I got mistaken for a heroin addict because of how the effects that alcohol was having on me. And I didn't see that
Yeah.
might have been a sign to stop just yet. So sounds like you had a pretty awful experience going there, but then it also sounds like that once you got through jail there, based on the timeline we have, you didn't necessarily stop at that point. You still kept going after it. So I guess
Yeah.
we'll kind of get into what happened between then and now, I guess, where what transpired into getting you to be on the road to recovery and now going on 4 years of sobriety. Because I mean, you're describing being in the depths of it. You're homeless. You're hanging out with the people that that's kind of the center of their being, and you're engaging in. It sounds like we don't have to go into the details of what you're doing, but you're not making money at a 9 to 5 job at this point. Probably not being all completely obliged with the law. And like I said, we don't need to incriminate yourself on anything or
Yeah.
go around that rabbit hole. But I guess what starts happening to get you onto that road to recovery now, and then we have something to discuss with your recovery before we close it off.
Yeah, yeah. So I could go on like for days with all this stuff, but
And it sounds like you can for your podcast, man. It sounds like you got plenty of
yeah,
things to
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about on
yeah.
there.
Um, so you wanted to know my changing point? Is that what you're saying? pretty
Yeah, where
much.
did it all start
Yeah.
turning around for you?
Okay. So I ended up getting like I was always in and out of jail, like from I think like maybe like after a year that I've been using like heroin, I want to say that I was in and out for like a lot of drug stuff, like under the influence or petty theft. And I had a lot of petty thefts for like 15, which they're most of them are expunged now. But I ended up getting charged with a felony. It was like oh my god, it was like felony theft, but they were trying to get me with like home invasion or something like that, and it wasn't nothing like that. They were just trying to charge me with that because there's like a law that like if like there can be like a stick holding, like if you go into a garage or something, like this case is closed, so I can kind of talk about it a little bit. So like if like say like you're in a garage and you steal a bunch of stuff or something like that, and say there's a stick, even like a plank or whatever to the above, and there's people in there, like they can try to charge you with like a higher charge, like stuff like that, like home invasion or something, basically a felony,
Right.
you know what I mean? So like I got booked in for something like that, you know what I mean? Like I took some stuff from a garage, and like they just, they try to get me with that, like a higher charge. They couldn't, and I ended up taking it all the way to trial basically. And I ended up having a mistrial because two people, well, at first, two people found me not guilty. And when, I heard that, I was like, oh, cool, I'm going home. You know what I mean? But no, the what happens is the judge comes back and tells the people like, "Can you guys possibly like, come back Monday and think about it over the weekend?" I'm like, "What? We've been here Monday through Friday. Like, I don't want to go through this again." You know what I mean? So okay, so the mistrial thing happened. Okay. Sorry, I'm blanking out right now.
Very
Mistrial
good.
thing, mistrial. Okay, so yeah, that happened, and then on Monday they came back and they found me guilty. The two people that found me not guilty. So I was like, great. At that point, like I had like maybe like I want to say 9 months in about. So like they charged me, I think, for 2 years, which you do half. Some I don't remember, something like that. Basically, I had like 3 or 4 months until I went home after that charge, regardless. So at that point, dude, I did a lot of deep thinking. Like I prayed a lot, and I read a lot of books. I think I read maybe like 250 books within a year. Like a lot
Jeez.
of self, a lot of self, like just um evaluation on myself and whatnot, and a lot of self-help books. Are the ones that I was reading and stuff. So, a lot of that, I would go to church a lot in there, basically try to stay busy and get my mind. And I also
Because
worked there. Go ahead.
because when you're in there, was there still access to drugs when you were in there? I hear that that's
Yes
always the
and
worst
no.
thing.
Yeah, it
Okay.
wasn't it wasn't like bad, but there was like, and like I'm not gonna lie, like I did like a couple times use, you know what I mean? And like it was more of just like, man, like I hate that I'm here. You know what I mean? It sucks. Like so I did it a couple times, you know what I mean? But it wasn't like there's not a lot of stuff in there, you know what I mean? And it's expensive and all that. And but I still was able to keep focus and all that. And I worked out hard, dude. Like one day, another one of my buddies that passed away when he had got out from that time. We did 1,000 push-ups in like 3, 4 hours. I would never
Jeez.
do that again in my life, but I was able to do that, like, and it was insane just thinking about it. Dude, like I was like breaking people off, dude, when they were coming in, after a couple months. I'm like, all right, bro, you're working out. Like people would come in my cell because we would do burpees. That's a pretty popular like jail workout or prison or
Yeah,
whatever.
because you don't need
So
weights or
we
anything. Yeah.
yeah, we would do a lot of calisthenics and stuff like that. So we would do, like I said, like burpees and stuff. Dude, like one person would come in, boom, 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 and he, oh, I had enough. I'll get someone else. I'm like, come on, let's go. I had enough. And by the third person, I'll be done. And then three people already came in and out of my cell because they were just couldn't keep up with me. Like I got so strong during that time. Like, um, And like, that's really doing that year helped me to, to figure stuff out. And my grandparents were staying in Tennessee at the time. And what I was going to do was get out of California and come to Tennessee. So, like, after when I got out, I messed up, dude. When I got out, I told my grandpa, like, hey, I'm going to stay here for like a day and say some bye to some friends or whatever and whatnot. What I did, dude, like, even me being in this good of a mind state and all that, dude, I went to my city in Oxnard. I got some hotel and I ended up getting high right when I got out, dude. And I was going to a donut shop in downtown Oxnard, and I think it's kind of by Fifth Street or something like that. I was going to a donut shop where a lot of people would hang out and all that and stuff. Like a lot of people who use drugs and all that and whatnot. And I'm in front of that donut shop, and I just remember like I nodded out, and I remember cops coming up to me, and they were gonna arrest me, dude. And like I was like, damn, dude, like I fucked up, you know what I mean? Like, and I told him like, dude, like please let me go, like, you know what I mean? I'll be on that first bus the next morning, and whatnot. And then they ended up letting me go, and I took that bus, and I ended up in Tennessee, and that's what changed my life forever. Is coming over here, and I attempted to get clean, and I stumbled like quite a few times, and I couldn't do it. And mind you, too, in between all this stuff, I probably overdosed like 8 to 10 times. And I tried so many things, and I just couldn't do it. And
But it
even with
sounds like the
me,
jail was the one, like the overdoses were just kind of little, like, bumps or, kind of little nods in the right direction. But in jail, it sounds like, based on what I heard from you, is that that's when you kind of realize, like, I don't want to do this anymore, kind of thing, or,
yeah.
I want out.
Yeah, but there were still little mistakes here and there, like I said, but I think a big part of me using in jail and stuff was just being very depressed, like being in there and just like, how my birthday would go by, 4th of July, and just, Christmas. Christmas hit me hard, dude, like just being in there by myself. And I don't really drink, dude, but I drank that day. Like, that's a big thing. I just don't drink. I don't drink. I've never smoked cigarettes, but I got pretty drunk that day in jail.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. Can't imagine having to pass the time. It sounds like you mostly were doing the good things in there. So, that's the how it's all transferring. So then you got back into Tennessee. Now, one thing we wanted to talk about that you have a strong opinion on, that again, I'm this is all outside the realm of territory I have, but you've mentioned that, so you're now on 4 years of sobriety, and you mentioned that one of the biggest things in helping you stay sober has been that you're are you prescribed methadone? Is that how that works? Or I'm not, walk me through that whole
Yeah.
process.
So so when so I kind of see it like as, I don't know how to explain, like kind of like halfway sober in a way, because like I'm not doing the stuff I was and all that, like using and all that, but at the same time I'm on methadone, like we kind of talked about the other day. But like, and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be, like I said, one-sided on this or on the other side. But the fact of the matter is that, and I'm tapering down now too. So, you know what I mean? I'm at the point in my life where I think that I can do that and be okay. You know what I mean? But when I came out here, I still kept slipping, dude. And like it was more of a, if I don't do something, then I'm gonna end up dying like the 20 other 30 people that I know, like my ex-girlfriend and all that, and people, all them people and stuff. So I made a decision, and I got on some boxing, and I started having like nightmares and stuff and all that and whatnot, and it wasn't working. So then I jumped to methadone, and I've been on it, like I said, for like 4 years. I think I want to say about 4 years. And it's allowed me to get my life where I want it to be, to now where I can taper off and be completely 100% not on anything at all. You know what I mean? Because yes, it kind of is like a crutch in a way, but what a crutch is for, dude? Like, they're to
Right, to
heal.
help you walk.
Yeah. Like it's helped me walk again. Like, now I'm running, dude. Like this year, I feel like it's gonna be one of the best years of my life. Like I legit feel like that.
No,
Like,
it's a good place to
yeah,
be in.
there was a couple. a couple times like the past 4 years that I tried coming off it, dude. And I swear, immediately when I tried coming off it, something really bad happened. Like 2 years ago, I was gonna come off it, and my grandma died, dude. Like stuff like that. Like, I was just like, maybe it's a sign that I'm not ready, because I couldn't do it, dude. I went through a bad breakup, and my like my ex that I was with for like 3 years cheated on me, dude, and I almost used in. And I called my buddy Monk that I met at a music venue that I was working at, and he came over, and like that's a good dude and a good friend. He came over, and like like I would have been gone. Like that could have been a whole another rail, you know what I mean? And I, thought to myself, I just wasn't ready. But I've been getting back like into working out and all that since like the middle of December, and starting to read like the Bible and stuff and praying a lot, and I'm pretty much trying to get back to the stuff that I was doing in. All right.
Ooh, yep. Your mic, so you're good.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah. Your mic. You just say you tapped your mic cable, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah, I'm pretty much doing like, the stuff that I was doing when I was in jail to get to this point is where I'm getting back to, so I can get myself 100% not on methadone or anything like that. You know what I mean? And like I said, like if I was not on that, like I probably would be dead, bro. And like my life is way more important to me than, I'd rather be on the methadone and living and figuring my life and figuring stuff out, because that's what it allowed me to do. And like I said, there's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna be like, well, it's a crutch and this and that. And it might be, dude. Like I said, like I won't say like I'm 100% sober, but like everybody has their own path to recovery, dude. And that's what I'm doing. I'm on my path. You know what I mean?
And that's the
And like,
thing, is that like it sounds like you went from the previous person, on heroin and not necessarily a functional member of society, to where now
yeah,
you just described to me is that, you're going through a day-to-day life. And I mean, like again, you said, like, I like the way you said that, well, what's the point of a crutch out there? I mean,
yeah,
it's a matter of that, there's always a crutch of some form or whatever. Like I even just think of when my experience with getting sober was, I crashed out. I mean, I was just slowly flaming out, but I was getting really, really bad into where I was a functional alcoholic. I was drinking around the clock and whatnot. I say functional because I was still maintaining a job and, performing at that. And like, while people knew I drink, no one knew to the level of which I did. I was
yeah,
keeping it a secret from even people that I drank with did not know the magnitude of which they didn't know I was showing up drunk, type thing. And it was, I want to say I was good at keeping people off my scent. Maybe some people knew and just didn't really care to, because that's the other thing too, is that you can't. I mean, for me, like when someone's really that far along, like I never want to talk to them when they're on something, because they're never going to be able to be ready to hear it. And then they're probably going to twist it all around in their head to where I'm the asshole and the other way around. It's not to the
yeah,
other times around, but some people, when they're that far gone, you can never catch them in the right moments. So I don't know where I kind of fell that, but I ended up in a detox center myself. And that's when, I mean, I had my, I experienced some things, and I kind of had my scared straight moments, as far
yeah,
as, seeing other people that, they were on multiple stints and whatnot, and just kind of, there. But I mean, once you get into there, the first thing they allow you to do is that they just have a fridge loaded full of sugary snacks and all that stuff. And it's
yeah,
like, all right, this stuff is all not good for you too. It just doesn't,
yeah.
cause you to have
And
bad experiences
coffee and
like
all
that,
that.
all these things. Like I remember before, and I'm still not an AA guy, but a guy that I knew that we just said that he just traded his addiction of alcohol to his going to AA meetings. And he's like, well, I've never ended up, in jail, or I've never ended up, doing, in the hospital because I went to an AA meeting. And I get all of that. So there's always these different crutches. And I mean, in some cases, like where when I got out of there, I got prescribed, I have trazodone that if I need to, can't fall
Yeah,
asleep, that helps me out with that. I'm still taking a substance of some form. It's just
yeah,
that it's, not abused in the common way. So everybody's got something that they're going on. And it's a fact of that you're not going
yeah,
on the street to score methadone. You're getting this prescribed. It's called part of a
yeah,
program, and you're not abusing it. You're using it to get by, kind of thing.
yeah,
One thing that I always never know, as someone who's coming from the not drinking alcohol, is that I still will occasionally smoke pot. Like, I mean, like you can't.
yeah,
The other thing too is when you're involved in so many things, you always kind of have to attack things in order of what problems are there, and getting the most severe one out of the way is usually the way that I would recommend it for anybody. But again, there are many different paths to there, so it's discouraging that people would frown upon something, but what's one setting? The ultimate objective is for you to not go back to using. One of these is helping you out there, and you're still making progresses in your life. So I don't see from that standpoint anything wrong with it. And if anybody hears this, if they have those doubts on there, just know that they're there. And ultimately, anybody can get to recover too. I mean, I had two major slip ups in the time from when I originally intended to get sober, where it took me from the middle of April to where my sober dates, which I don't, I loosely tease around. I don't know the dates, but I know it's sometime in the middle of July. There was a couple hiccups in the middle there, but I've been going on there. And I mean, for the right now, I feel like I've been, I feel like it's been smooth sailing, but I mean, I've also done a lot of things to ensure that, as I kind of
Yeah.
go on as avoiding, like you mentioned, you had to move to avoid, being around familiar places and familiar faces and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm somebody that doesn't engage in some of the same types of fun that I used to have, where it's like, I don't hang out with people at certain types of parties because, well, one way to avoid not getting drunk again is to not be around drunk people. It's just, it makes
Yeah.
it a lot easier to do. So I get that, kind of battle there. And, if the occasional time I smoke a little pot here and there, is it ideal? No, but ultimately I'm still not drinking now. If I ever find myself in an area where I'm having a problem with marijuana, we'll have to attach that battle. But,
Yeah.
whether it be coffee or whether it be nicotine, it's going to be something that you're going to crutch onto, or, I mean, even people gain unhealthy dependencies on working out, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's all,
Hurt
it's all about,
themselves or
it's all
something.
about balancing something and making sure that you're going in the right direction, I would say.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it sounds like you're going there, man. And honestly, I will say that, your little setup there with the headphones and the microphone, you sound good. You got good sound quality on there. And hopefully this is kind of, let you get a little more comfortable, get a little familiarity with talking about that. I'm normally somebody who has a hard time of listening, I would say, or I do, I tend to talk over, but I found myself listening and captivated on there. And I think that you'll find as you kind of attack this, like, you mentioned, or I mentioned, and you kind of agree with me that the opiate community is kind of one that looks out, or they're caring for each other. You're going to find a lot of encouragements in the podcast community. You're going to find the assholes out there as well too, but just kind of, look forward to getting in there, and any way I can help you out and getting there as far as getting you launched out. But it sounds like you'll have plenty of things to talk about and plenty of,
Yeah.
ways to encounter people. And it's there is a demand for the product that you're pushing out there, is that, there are plenty of people getting, on their road to recovery in some way. I mean, you're the first guest. I mean, not the first guest I've had where I've known that we were going to be talking about this, but I've had plenty of guests on where I mentioned my own little personal battle. And then they are like, oh yeah, no, dude, I got this going on, where it's like, I knew from my time in the drinking world that there was a secret society of functional alcoholics out there, but then you
Yeah.
also don't know of too many. I mean, I'm somebody that wears my sobriety not like outwardly on a sleeve. Like, I'm not preaching to anybody I see drinking, don't do that, but I am quick to point out that I'm somebody that, has overcome that struggle, because it's something I'm incredibly proud of. It's not something, I mean, and I don't know based on that, but I mean, I feel like from what I know about your recovery is that that's a really low probability of making, once you've made it as far as you've made it, it seems like, there is no such thing as the smooth sailing there, but many people do not even come close to making it as far as you have. So congratulations on that for you, man. I really glad to hear about that for you.
Yeah. As we kind of end this, I just want to say, so like where I'm at now, like now. So now, like, I came from that point in my life, now, like, I have my own apartment, I have a 2-bedroom apartment, and one bedroom's just full of storage and stuff. And I got this like 3, 4 months ago, have my little dog, you know what I mean? And I've been working with dogs for like a year and a half now,
Oh, that's
and I
awesome.
love it. Yeah. It's, it's a lot, but I love doing it. It's a training facility. I live in a small town, and like I'm not used to it. When I first moved out here, it kind of freaked me out because I'm used to like noise being from California, you know what I mean? And I would just say that, anybody that listens to this, like, just keep going, like, you know what I mean? No matter what, like, if you slip up a little bit, you just pick yourself up and keep going, and don't make excuses. You know what I mean? Like, you're the only person you got. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't have a support system, go find one. You know what I mean? Or like find it within yourself to keep going, and find something like positive to get into. Like a big thing that I found that's helped me is to get kind of back to like how it was when I was a kid, like what I did when I was a kid, what I like doing. like video games and wrestling and working out and sports and stuff like that. Find something you love to do, you know what I mean? And, get a job and save some money, you know what I mean? And just do what you love and just every day, just keep going no matter what happens.
Yeah, I mean, and that's awesome. And I mean, I'm gaining my own personal, I have the reminder of this, of that, while I'm still sober, things have been a little bit down, but it's been uplifting here. Cause I mean, clearly now it's always one of
Yeah.
those putting in perspective where it's like, not that you're somebody that's going to mitigate but it's just like, okay, like you could have worse problems, Ryan, not saying, say that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but there's worse struggles in life than what you're going through. And, that's kind of great. So, I mean, hey, I mean, you're a cancer survivor and someone in recovery. You've faced two of the biggest battles that anybody can face in life. And here you are still standing to talk about it. So, look
Yeah.
forward to for good things to happen from you. We're friends on the book now. So if honestly, reach out, keep in touch. I'll same on this end as well too. And I'll look forward to when you get going your show. If you want to have me on as a guest or like to see your progress and like to see that you're got things going on. So keep on that path you're on, my friend. It sounds like you're finding a purpose in this life as I've got the bad things out of there, but I kind of still need to find my purpose because I'm just kind of just middling going through it and, looking for more, and what more is, I still do not know yet, but I got a lot more time to figure that one out than I used to, because I was on a very, very, was on a road to nowhere pretty fast, I think.
Yeah. It's all about the journey, dude.
Yeah, no.
Enjoying the journey.
So I look forward to, continuing to see how your journey goes. So Anthony, I'm going to put you off and then I'm just going to wrap this up and then I'll talk to you off air in just a second. All right, man.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, that was an amazing little interview I had there with Anthony Cruz. He certainly got deep down. And I mean, again, it sounds like, I mean, for somebody who has his own struggles, I could tell stories forever. Me and Anthony probably could have gotten into more and more and more on those. But again, I'll leave those for him to be on his show, which we'll find out more when that's going to launch and when that's all going to be. And I'll be sure to let everybody know. So thank you for tuning into this episode of the Scho-Zone. And if you have anybody questions or any concerns, always like feedback on this, like, subscribe, comment, share, all of that douchebag stuff that podcast hosts like myself say. We're up to, like 213 subscribers. I am coming up on my 1-year anniversary of the show. I want to get to 500. So just a simple subscribe. You don't even have to watch, but if you do watch, hopefully you enjoy what you're seeing. So until next time, we'll be back on the Scho-Zone. Peace. The path to success is filled with many bumps.